Don't ask me why. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you, Klaus, for joining our communities and presenting the flight levels, your creation. Again, last piece of information before leaving the stage to Klaus. Klaus preferred to have the questions at the end, but clearly when you have a question in your mind, you are invited to write the question in the chat, okay? After the presentation, I will facilitate the order of the questions so you can unmute and make your question directly to Klaus. In the meantime, if you can keep muted your microphone, it will be better. You can leave your camera on if you want. It could be much better for the recording, clearly. But when you speak and you talk, you make your question, please turn your camera on because this will be in the video recording. So again, thank you everyone for joining. Just for your information, we have 65 people connected. So this is a good event, I would say. And Klaus, the stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Corrado, for your introduction words. I am sharing my screen and I hope you see something. Yes, that looks good. Perfect. Yes, as Corrado already said, it is about flight levels today. And he asked me to do like an intro to flight levels. And well, that's what I'm trying to do here. So the title is Flight Levels, surprise, surprise, the missing link to business agility. And what I tried to get across is really like the basics of flight levels. And I tried to explain what companies are actually doing when they are doing flight levels. Yeah. If you're interested in this topic, flightlevels.io/join, there is like a community where we are like talking about this topic. So if you're interested to join, it's free. Feel free to sign up. So what are companies doing when they are doing flight levels? Well, before we do the what, let's start with why. I heard that this is not a bad idea. Well, why flight levels? Well, I tried to explain this in the book. This book is called Rethinking Agile, and this book is about an agile transformation. And in this agile transformation, a company, they wanted to become agile. Their main goal, I mean, there were multiple goals they wanted to achieve, but their main goal was really like, okay, we want to decrease time to market. It takes like forever until we can deliver something to the market. So this needs to be faster. So this was like their main goal. What they did is they are like, okay, the solution is, of course, agility. And agility is a lot about cross-functional teams, cross-functional agile teams and product teams. And that's actually what they did. They basically did a huge transformation, a huge reorganization, and built cross-functional agile product teams. So cross-functional teams means as many knowledge as possible in one team, and product team means one team is only working on one product. So if you hear something like this, you're probably like, awesome, they really got it. I mean, that's what a lot of agility is about, right? What was the result of this transformation? The result was that time to market was going up. And they were like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. So I somehow explained what was going on in this organization. And I would just pick on one topic, kind of, which was, I guess, quite important there. So what they did, they built this cross-functional agile product teams. Their holy grail was to tear down functional silos and become cross-functional, because when you're cross-functional, everything will be fine. And well, yes, they teared down the functional silos, but they built cross-functional silos. And that's also not so smart, actually. So the point here is, it's not so important how your team structure looks like. It's way more important that you're optimizing between the teams, like the interaction between the teams. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of cross-functionality. But with reorganizations, you cannot get rid of the silos. You can go from functional silos to cross-functional silos. You can go to product silos. You can go to market segment silos. You can go to customer silos, whatever. The point is, there will always be some dependencies in your organization, between your teams. So the idea is not to find the best organizational setup. What we in Flight Levels Land try to do is we try to target these walls, not by tearing them down, but by drilling, let's say, interaction holes between these silos. And that's actually, a quite important thing when it comes to flight levels. Flight levels is not a model which tells you this is the best organizational structure. The point is, I think it's a fairy tale that you can build an organization without dependencies. It's way more important that you understand your dependencies and then that you become better in managing your dependencies, like before you start the next reorganization and again and again and again. And this is one of the main things when it comes to flight levels. And that's actually what I also explained in this book. And what did we do? Well, we somehow applied, to get out of this situation, we applied flight levels thinking. So what is flight levels? Well, I don't know. No, but I'm not sure. So I think flight levels is more like a thinking model. So flight levels is not a blueprint which tells you you have to exactly do these things and then everything will be fine. And if you don't follow the blueprint, then there will be flight levels police and they will put you into jail or something like this. That's not the thing. So flight levels is more like a thinking model. And this thinking model helps you to figure out the right levers in your organization that you need to pull so that you achieve the results that you want to achieve. This is actually what flight levels is about, a thinking model, right? That's quite unsexy, I know. People don't like to think, but in the end, it's quite beneficial. And what are organizations doing when they are applying this flight level thinking model to their organization? Well, in the end, it's about establishing 5 activities on 3 levels. And they also build a systems architecture which somehow glues all the agile islands together. And that's exactly what I would like to, present today. I want to talk a little bit about the 5 activities on the 3 levels, and I will talk a little bit about the systems architecture. So let's start with the 5 activities. When organizations are doing flight levels, they try to incorporate these 5 activities into their daily doing. And the first activity is visualize your situation. I mean, that's nothing new, right? Visibility is a good thing. We all know these boards and they make a lot of sense in knowledge work because the thing is, we don't see our work, right? When I go like in an office building from office to office and I open a door, behind each and every door, I see the same picture. There are people doing this. That's the kind of visibility that we have in knowledge work, right? So if you want to become better, if you want to improve something, it somehow makes sense to actually see what's going on. So this could be one kind of visualization, what we see here. That's a quite extreme visualization. So I've picked 2 extreme points. This is extreme to this extent because it seems like these guys really know what they are doing. You have a quite long board, a long process, many steps in this process. You have cards where there are even checklists on the cards. That's exactly what we need to do. This is one way of visualizing your situation. If you know what you're doing, if your degree of uncertainty in your work environment is quite low, this could be a perfect visualization of your situation. Yeah. Another visualization could look like this. That's the other extreme. This is basically like we don't know what we are doing in a positive sense. This is like we're exploring things, right? So there's a high degree of uncertainty. You can read this as 4 columns. So on the right side, we have the done column. That's the stuff what's done. That's the now column. That's the stuff that keeps us busy today. So we're working on these kind of things. Let's assume it's October. This is the stuff what we think we can do until the end of the year, and that's later. So there is no kind of flow. There are no real columns or something like this on this board. It's more like, somehow ordering the chaos and working with the high degree of complexity this organization is in. And as I said before, it's 2 extremes. The point is, we know that the world is not black and white. There are 50 shades of gray in between. But the point is, when you are visualizing your situation, you will most likely come up with one of these visual boards, which somehow tells you, okay, that's how we are doing things here. That's activity number 1. Activity number 2 in flight levels is that companies are creating focus. Creating focus is a lot about finishing work over starting work. There are many ways how you can create focus. The Kanban world for sure knows something like WIP limits, like working process limits. From the Scrum world, we know time boxes, but there's even more. Sequencing, SAT policies. So there are multiple ways of how companies create focus. The point is, what we want to achieve when we're creating focus, it's always the same thing. We want to shift the behavior from starting work to finishing work, right? So stop starting, start finishing is one of these slogans. And this makes sense because starting work costs money and finishing work brings money, actually, right? So the question is, what do you want to optimize for? And yeah, in flight levels land, we think it doesn't make a lot of sense to optimize for busy people. We want to optimize for finished work. This means, I mean, it's obvious when you optimize for busy people, you get busy people, right? But what's the consequence? So if we utilize people to 100% so that everybody's busy working all the time, the consequence is this work is being finished very, very slowly. And this sounds somehow not very intuitive, but in the end, it's not a rocket science. So what goes on a road network, which is fully utilized? Not much, right? It's probably something like this. You basically have one big parking lot, right? So this is high resource utilization of the resource road. And if we take a look at this road network, we're not talking about 100% utilization. If you can see how many spots there are still free, so we can put way more cars on this network. So this is actually pure waste of road, what we see here. But I kind of like this picture, right? So you don't have to study flow science or something like this if you want to interpret this picture. So if I'm the car entering the road here, I probably won't go 200 kilometers per hour, right? It will be a little bit slower. So speed in highly congested systems, in highly utilized systems is good, but not possible. And the other thing is when I'm the car going into the street here, I have no freaking clue when I'm here. So predictability in congested systems is also not possible. And I kind of like this picture a lot because you can immediately map it directly to organizations, especially to agile organizations. Let's assume these roads here, these are these boards that we are building. Remember, I've showed you some boards when we were talking about visualize situation. So let's assume this is a Kanban board here, right? Here we have somewhere a Scrum board. Maybe there's a safe train somewhere passing by somewhere over there. So these are all these boards that we're building in our organization. And now let's fully load them with projects. And it needs to be faster now, right? Because now we are agile. But that's not the point, right? So the thing is, it's not so much about the visualization. It's not so much about what you see. I mean, it's important, right? But if you really want to become better in delivering stuff, you need to remove the work in your systems. So you need to create focus, right? So you need to get rid of the cars on the road network. And only when you're creating this focus, you're running a stable system which is actually able to deliver things. Here, delivery of cars in this picture is not possible, right? And that's why create focus is a very big topic when it comes to establishing flight levels in organizations. Usually when you visualize your situation, you can better administrate your dysfunctionality. Perfect. You can manage your dysfunctionality a little bit better. But if you really want to become better, you need to be able to create focus in the entire company. That's really the biggest lever you can pull. So create focus. What else? Activity number 3 is establish agile interactions. What does this mean? Remember, I was talking about we want to drill interaction holes between the silos. That's exactly what I mean when I say establish agile interactions. The idea is that we want to make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. and it's across the entire organization. So we need to be able to establish agile interactions across all the teams, across all the silos, all the functions, all the disciplines, and everything in our organization. So we're always talking about cross-team coordination here. So yeah, highly important when it comes to managing dependencies, to make sure the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. Agile interactions. Activity number 4 is measure progress. So when companies are doing flight levels, they're also measuring their progress. What does measure progress actually mean? Well, doing flight levels for the sake of doing flight levels is quite unsexy. We hopefully want to achieve something with it, right? So we want to, I don't know, become faster, like time to market shall improve, like in this example before. Or maybe we want to become better in delivering strategy. Maybe we want to have better customer satisfaction. I don't know. There is a reason why you are doing flight levels. And when we talk about measure progress, about this activity number 4, we see that the measurement as a feedback loop. So if you want to become faster, it probably would make sense to see how fast are we, right? So are we making progress towards our goal? If we are making progress, so let's do more of it. But if we don't making progress, then we probably should change something, right? So in flight levels land, and I think that's quite important, we don't measure because we can, we measure because we want to receive feedback. Feedback, whether we are on the right track. And this is also the case that why flight levels doesn't tell you you have to do these measurements, right? It depends what you want to achieve with your flight level system. The cool thing is when you are measuring your process, you need to have a common understanding. And that's also quite cool, actually. So I've seen it so often when you ask, okay, what do you want to achieve? And probably someone says, well, we want to improve quality. Perfect. Everybody's clapping hands because we know we don't have a good quality, right? But what does it actually mean to improve the quality? How do we see that we are becoming better? Is it that we have not so many bugs in the bug tracker, or do we have fewer calls in the support center, right? So how can we see in 2 months that we are making progress? And then we need to have a common understanding, actually. And that's another reason why it's so important to measure the progress. So for instance, I love it when companies or people say, we want to become agile. Perfect. That's the biggest balloon of hot air someone can imagine, actually, right? For one people, agility, or for one group of people, agility is like, I don't know, we are becoming faster, and the other group is like, we are hugging more trees. And but what is it? How do we see in 3 months that we are making progress towards becoming more agile? So they foster common understanding. And whenever we do measurements, we also do counter measurements. So let's get back to the example. We want to become faster. It's quite easy to become faster. We just have to drop quality, right? Then we are faster. And maybe we can burn out some people. So the thing is, whenever we usually when you want to achieve something, the system tries to achieve it, right? So it makes sense that you also come up with counter measurements so that you don't overdo the thing and you sub-optimize other parts of your organization. So, and yeah, that's why in flight levels land, we think it's quite important that we are measuring the progress. This is activity number 4. And now activity number 5 is improve. And improve basically means you are never, ever done. So in flight levels land, we have this saying of the current work environment is your latest state of misunderstanding. You think that the world works like this, but then there's reality and there's always change going on in reality. So you need to adapt. So always run a changing system. That's the idea. So you basically iterate over these 5 activities again and again and again. So these are the 5 activities. These 5 activities companies try to incorporate in their work environment. And usually when companies do something like this, you get something like that as an outcome. So you probably get a board, a visualization with a little bit of focus policies around it, some meetings where people can meet, and some measurements. But now there's the good question, what is so unique about this? I mean, this could be Scrum, for instance, right? This could be Kanban. This could be, I mean, what is the point here? Well, the point is that you don't do these 5 activities isolated somewhere in your organization. The point is you need to apply these 5 activities at all flight levels in your organization. And this is exactly where the 3 flight levels come in. So these 5 activities, you need to do them on multiple levels in your organization. And this is the flight levels. Flight levels is a term from aviation, and it basically describes how high an aircraft is flying. And the thing is, it's not about better or worse when it comes to height. You see different things, right? If you're flying very low, you see a lot of details. You see people walking around on the street and so on. But your vision is somehow restricted, so you don't see very wide. If you're flying very high, you don't see a lot of details on the ground, but you have a very good overview and see quite wide, actually. So the same is true for organizations. In organizations, we can also fly very low. And when we fly very low, we see a lot of details. We see the technical work of the teams, the operational work of the teams. So flight level 1 is about the teams, right? And the idea is we identify the teams, and these teams, they apply these 5 activities and incorporate that in their work, in their daily work, right? So flight level 1, the operational level. Most of the time, you don't have only one team in an organization, you have multiple teams in an organization. And that's also why we see multiple flight level 1 systems in an organization, of course. And all of these teams, they're incorporating these 5 activities in their daily doing. Now, there's this point that in many cases, one team alone cannot deliver value to the customer. Most of the time, you need multiple teams in order to deliver value to the customer. And this is exactly where flight level 2 kicks in. So we need to fly a little bit higher. When we fly a little bit higher, then we are on the coordination level. This means on flight level 2, we make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. Yeah. So again, on flight level 2, we identify our coordination level. Yeah, what is it? And then we apply these 5 activities on this coordination level. A coordination could be a coordination level could be, for instance, something like a product, a platform, or I don't know, a service. Yeah, where you need multiple teams in order to deliver value to the customer. And yeah, you connect the flight level 2 system with the flight level 1 systems. That's the idea behind it. And on the flight level 2, you just make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. The thing here is, and I think that's quite beautiful, from the viewpoint of flight level 2, I don't care how the teams are working. So these teams, they could do, I don't know, this could be a Kanban team, they could do Scrum, or maybe they are just working. That's also fine, right? The thing of flight level 2 is we only want to make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. Yeah, that's the idea behind it. And yeah, if this is like the wealth of your products and services, usually an organization has more than only one product and service. So you will see multiple flight level 2 systems in your organization popping up. Then there is this situation that in many times we have dependencies between these products and services. And I'm pretty sure you know this. When you change something in this product, you have to change something over there, and you have to change something in another product as well, right? So there are dependencies between these products. That's again a problem that we can solve on flight level 2 because it's a coordination problem, right? So we can build like flight level systems, flight level 2 systems across multiple other flight level 2 systems. So hierarchies are possible across different products. Yeah, but that's not flight level 3. We're still talking about flight level 2 because we are coordinating like the delivery work. All right. Now there is one level missing, and this is flight level 3. So we can fly even a little bit higher. And when we fly higher, we've reached flight level 3. and flight level 3 is the strategic level, strategy level. The idea of flight level 3 is that we want to align the work in the organization to the strategy, and we want to make strategy happen. We want to make strategy happen by connecting the flight level 3 systems with the flight level 2 and with the flight level 1 systems. Yeah, and again, even here on flight level 3, you are applying the 5 activities. Yeah, you make your work visible, you create focus, establish agile interactions, measure your progress, and you improve. And that's what you actually do on all these 3 flight levels. So if you take a look at this picture, it looks quite hierarchical, right? So the thing is, you could probably easily map the org chart to this picture. Yeah, but that's not the point. Flight levels is about the operational structure. Flight levels actually does not need an organization. We don't need an org chart at all in flight levels land. Of course, there are org charts and we make use of them, but like the idea behind flight levels is not to map your org chart on this. The idea is more like this. Let's assume I have a team here, and this team comes to the conclusion, damn, we always have dependencies to this other team. And again, and again, and again. Maybe these teams, they talk to each other, maybe even with the third team, because the 3 teams have dependencies. And they're like, okay, we always have dependencies. So what do you think about, let's build a flight level 2 system? So the idea is the flight level 2 system, this system here is built by these 3 teams. So it's the board of the teams. And now they are doing like stand-up meetings, for instance. So they send delegates to this flight level 2 system here. And then they're having a stand-up meeting here, and then they're going back to their team. So first you have the cross-team coordination, then they go back to the team, and then they're doing the coordination within the team. But the point is, the teams build the flight level 2 system. And let's assume this is a product. Here we have another product or a service or a platform, or I don't know what. And again, we get into this situation where we always have these dependencies. So maybe the people on this flight level 2, which are no one else than the people on flight level 1, come to the conclusion, it probably makes sense to build another flight level 2 system where we can manage our dependencies across the products. And again, we would see people from these flight level 2 systems, which are only people from the flight level 1 system, to coordinate in front of this board. And the same is true for the flight level 3. Maybe someone asks the question, are we actually flying into the right direction? So what about strategy? So, okay, let's build the flight level 3 system. And on the flight level 3 system, you would see the people from the flight level 2, which are the people from the flight level 1. So flight levels is totally not a hierarchical approach. So it's not the point to map your org chart. What we want to do is we want to map the operational structure. Of course, there is an org chart in your organization. And of course, we make use of it. And yes, on flight level 2, this will probably be like product managers, product owners, or something like this. But the point is, it's not about their role. It's not about the hierarchical thing. It's more about the way of thinking, the way of coordination, what we want to figure out here. Yeah. Okay. So as I already said, it's not about the hierarchies. And now it's getting a little bit tricky. That's the thing. Because if it would be about the org chart, it's quite easy. We can take a look at the org chart. We have easily identified the flight level 1 systems, right? Then probably the very top of the org chart is our flight level 3, and everything in between is flight level 2. But that's not the point. There is another way how to figure out what your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems are. And that's what we call a systems architecture. And the big part of the systems architecture is that we build a so-called work systems topology. And the work systems topology basically tries to figure out what are your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems in your organization and how are they connected. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of this picture and we want to like design a picture like this for our specific organization. So each work systems topology is unique because usually there are not many organizations which have exactly the same, which look alike. And well, this is a work systems topology of an organization, what you see here. We have as teams, as you see. And we have even max as teams somewhere. So yeah, we need to change the wording here, I guess. But that's basically nothing else than the picture what we've seen before, but for a real organization. And what you can see, it's no longer this hierarchical kind of thing. So what we see is that flight levels can be merged together. For instance, here, 3P, 4P, and 5P are products. So we're talking about a company which is building drones. And this is the 4-propeller drone, 3-propeller, 5-propeller drone. And they have an own product strategy. So they have a flight level 3 system combined with their flight level 2 system. They have an operational portfolio where they are like managing dependencies between the products, between the platforms. So we have a battery platform here, we have an engine platform, a software platform, and we have all these like cross-cutting service functions like procurement, marketing, sales, and so on. And they're coordinating their work on this operational portfolio, plus there is also a strategy part included. So these different flight levels, they can even be merged together. And that's the thing what we are trying to figure out when we are running a flight level systems architecture workshop. What are your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems in your particular case, and how are they connected? That's what we call a work systems topology. What we also do when we are, or when organizations are working with flight levels, they think about flight routes. What is flight routes? So let's zoom into 2 systems. So that's maybe a good information here. Each of these boxes, on each of these boxes, you again apply these 5 activities. Remember, visualize your situation, create focus, and so on. So you do it on all these boxes here. And I want to zoom in on these 2 boxes, on the 5P, that's a product, and on the operational portfolio and strategic portfolio. So it's a mixture actually. And when you apply these 5 activities, that's the outcome. So you have something like this, they call it a company wall. And what you basically see here is a visualization of this box, of this flight level operational portfolio plus flight level 3 system. So they have some strategic outcomes here, something that they want to achieve until June 2022, until the end of the year, and a long-term business strategy. And here they have initiatives, and that's the things that we're going to do, which address, which make these outcomes move, kind of. Yeah. So this is a very high level flight level 2, flight level 3 combination board, what you see here. And this is a product board. And again, it's unique. Please do not copy this. It's wrong what you see. It only works for this company, right? This product board is like this. They have something like a discover phase here where they were working with like canvases. Then they come up with their outcomes. And then they are like delivering the stuff that they want to deliver. So the thing is, these boards, they need to be connected somehow, and that's what we do when we come up with flight routes. And I will show you an example flight route for this particular organization here. So in this organization, it's like this. We have a trigger. That's what we call a trigger. And in this case, let's assume it's a new feature idea. Of course, you have different triggers. You have, I don't know, like some regulation stuff. You have, I don't know, bugs that you need to fix. And these triggers, they can pop up on any flight level. So this is one flight route where the trigger pops up on this 5P port. And what they do is, and this is a new feature idea, and what they do is to write a canvas. In their world, a canvas, they are calling it a feature canvas, where they are like, somehow nail the jelly on the wall. I guess that's a good picture. So you have this idea, but you have no freaking clue what's behind it. So they somehow try to understand what is it about. So why do we want to build it? What are the customers? How much does it cost? Roughly, of course, right? So they just want to make somehow sense out of this idea. In their world, this canvas is, there is no time bound behind it. So a canvas could be realized in 2 days or in 2 years. They're like, okay, we don't want to restrict our thinking at this stage with time, so time doesn't matter here. And again, the reminder, do not copy. It works for this company, it don't work for your company. Then when they have this canvas, what they do is they generate some outcomes, because they are really outcome driven. So they don't want to produce output, but they want to deliver some outcomes. So they come up with outcomes, what they want to achieve until a certain point in time. And now you could think that they start to work on these outcomes, but that's not what's going on here. Now they copy this outcome to the company wall. Yeah. And not only this flight level 2 system is copying this stuff to the company wall, all the other products you've seen 3P, 4P, and so they all put their outcome to the company wall. And then they have something what they call a strategy planning. So they want to figure out what is the biggest bang for the buck for all these outcomes that we want to achieve. So we are not able as a company to realize all of them, but we don't want to sub-optimize and say, okay, 5P, you're working on these kind of things. We want to have a competition going on between all these great ideas. And that's what they call strategy planning. And then the outcome of the strategy planning is a set of outcomes what the entire company wants to achieve in the next 3 months. So they don't want to sub-optimize for particular products. They want to optimize for the entire company. That's the idea. And then they generate initiatives out of the outcome. An initiative in this organization, they call it an initiative, and they define it like this. We want to see impact in the market within 3 months. So the initiatives are sliced that you can see something within 3 months. That's their definition, actually. So now we know, okay, these are the outcomes we want to achieve in the next 3 months. And these are the initiatives our company has to work on. And now they start to work on it. They start with the delivery process, actually. And this is, again, where flight level 2 comes into play. So in this scenario, it's a pull system. So it's not like the company wall is pushing the stuff to the flight level 2 system, to the flight level 2 systems. It's here on the wall. And whenever there's capacity available, they pull in the work from the company wall, right? And yeah, then they start to work on this initiative. The problem is that an initiative is worth of 3 months of work. So they don't start to work on this initiative. But what they do is they split these initiatives into epics. Epics is a size in this company. They have like the rule that it's about 6 to 8 weeks of work or something like this. So it's already quite small for an epic, because many companies are dreaming of months of work when they call epic. So here we're talking about some weeks of work. And that's an entity where teams can actually make sense out of this. So what the teams are doing, they are having planning meetings across these teams, and they are splitting these epics into stories. And this is where the flight level 1 systems come into play. So the teams pull in the epic from the flight level 2. Again, it's not a push system, it's a pull system, and split these epics into stories. So this is a flight route, what we have seen. So what you want to do with the flight routes, you basically want to connect your flight levels together, and you want to see what kind of work is being done where on your flight level systems. We can draw the flight routes also like this. So this is a more like abstract version. So we just have like the flight levels here. So we are somehow flattening the work system's topology. And then we can draw in the flight route like this, and it looks like this. It's exactly what we've seen, right? We have the new feature idea as a trigger. They write the canvas, they generate outcomes, initiatives, epics, stories. That's how they are doing it. But there's another thing what we can do with these flight routes, and that's actually quite nice. We can derive so-called heartbeats. This would be an heartbeat, yeah? So we can actually remove the details and only take a look at this heartbeat. And then you see different heartbeats, hopefully, in an organization. And this is a heartbeat what we see quite often, right? So this is like, okay, we are having a decision somewhere here on flight level 3, and then flight level 2 comes in and flight level 1 comes in and works on it. The point is, it's not good or bad. The thing is, if you only have flight routes like this in your organization, then it basically tells you that you have very smart people on flight level 3 who exactly know what the rest of the company has to do, right? So if you only see heartbeats like this, it's maybe not so good. Yeah. Another heartbeat is something like this. This is like, okay, teams, they can decide what they want to do and they just start working on it. And I think it's very important that we have flight routes like this. I don't want, I don't know, when there are bugs or something like this popping up, this is not a strategic topic. This is like business as usual. Just work with it, right? But if you only have flight routes like this, it probably tells you have a lot of autonomy, but maybe not a lot of alignment in your organization, right? Because every team can do whatever they want to do. And another heartbeat, I mean, you can imagine there are many of these heartbeats, but I kind of like this heartbeat as well, because often we don't see this heartbeat quite often. So often when we work with organizations, they dream of this like, okay, self-organization, we are doing this hack weeks and everything. And then we have, I don't know, this hack week, teams come up with great ideas and then they just continue to work like they did before. So the thing is, when you're doing something like this, hack weeks or something like this, is there a way that something that was being born on a team, an idea, that it's possible that someone or that we can promote it to a company priority? So we need to have a way up there as well, right? And yeah, this is what the heartbeats are actually really good for. So when you draw these flight routes, derive the heartbeats out of it, and then you can have a good picture actually how you think or how the current decision-making culture is established in this organization, and you most likely find some things that you want to change. All right, so this was the flight routes, and I could talk so much more, but I think this is kind of the very essence when it comes to flight levels. So let's try to recap. What is flight levels? Well, flight levels is that we have these 5 activities. We visualize the situation, create focus, establish agile interactions, we measure the progress, and we improve. We try to like incorporate these 5 activities into our daily doing, but we don't do it in an isolated way. We do it over the entire company, and especially on all 3 flight levels. It doesn't make any sense that all the teams are incorporating these 5 activities, but there's no coordination between the teams going on, and strategy is also somewhere up in the air without any tangible kind of connection to the rest of the organization. So the point is, you need to apply these 5 activities on all the 3 flight levels in your organization. Then next question comes up: what are your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems in your organization? And I hope I got the message across that it's not about the mapping of the org chart. There's not much that you can do wrong with flight levels, but this would be wrong if you just map the org chart to the flight levels. You need to invest some brain cells to come up with a work systems topology, which is part of the systems architecture. The work systems topology tells you what are your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems and how are they connected together. You're actually applying the 5 activities on all these boxes here. Yeah. And if you want to glue all your agile islands together, it also makes sense to come up with flight routes. And the flight routes basically tells you how work is flying through your organization. And that's pretty much it, what I wanted to say. If you have questions around this and if you're interested in a topic, go to flightlevels.io/join. There is a community and you can ask any questions there. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. I have to take a breath. The first question that I have coming from the community is, are you going to share this deck?
Yes.
Oh, you can send to me and I will share with everyone. Yep. Okay. There is a very interesting question coming from Nisha. Nisha, if you want to unmute and make your question directly.
So really, it's about comparing with, the current existing safe agile methodologies, or any other agile framework. Like, I know you mentioned that framework does not make a business agile. So I want to listen more about that.
Mm. So the thing is, I'm not a SAFe expert when you are asking about SAFe, but what I understand, SAFe tells you what to do in terms of, okay, there is this like blueprint, what you need to follow, and this is exactly not what Flight Levels is doing. So Flight Levels, you need to come up with your own work system topology, and it's you basically tailor it to your organization, and you only introduce that much of change that is necessary. So Flight Levels is very, very lightweight, and it's very cost effective. So it's about 10% of the SAFe implementation that you have to invest, because it's laser focused improvement. It's not like a shotgun approach or something like this. The very first thing is always like, okay, what do we want to improve? And based on this question, we start to work. And the change process, again, we haven't talked about change at all, but there's a lot of knowledge around the change process. What we do is we have an agile change process as well, where we work in iterations, which makes sense, because introducing agility with a waterfall approach, it's my kind of humor, but it's maybe not the best thing to do. So it's very lightweight and cost effective compared to, for instance, SAFe. Hope this somehow answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Klaus. There are a couple of questions from Maura. Maura, if you can unmute, I will start with the second one, if you are fine with that, Maura.
Sure, of course.
Please.
So is flight routes similar to value stream mapping? And what I meant is, does it follow the dependencies, or do you actually, like the value stream mapping, or do you actually rather create it up front in order to avoid dependencies and stimulate joint work?
Mm-hmm. So how we usually approach this. So we build the work system topology first, so that we know, okay, these are the flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems. Then we flatten it out, so we don't want to see these details. And then we basically brainstorm what are the most important triggers in our environment. Mm-hmm. And then we map how the work breakdown and how the work is actually being connected between the levels. So and based on this, we do it with the current situation. We take a look, does this make sense? And if we think it does not make sense, we're changing it. What I understand from the value stream mapping is that you are more looking into waiting times and so on. We don't do this when we are doing flight routes, but when we are building especially a flight level 2 system, it's a lot about discovering these waiting times. So this would be the next step. So we would isolate the flight level 2 then, most of the time the flight level 2, because there you have most of the waiting times. And in the design of the flight level 2 system, the cool thing is when you have the flight routes, you can derive basic patterns of flight level systems already, where you have buffers and waiting times. Because whenever you have a copy relation or a generate relation, there is some waiting time going on behind it. So that's in the next step where we uncover these waiting times. Right. I hope this somehow makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It seems like it's a very initial part of a planning process and figuring out how to more optimally generate the outcome. Now, the follow-up question that I would have is, do you start with large-scale outcomes first and then you do the flight routes? Or do you start from the ideas that come from the level 2 or level 1, the outcome ideas? How does it start? What's the trigger there?
Yeah, so the thing is, that's what I meant with blueprint versus tailored solution. We always start with the question, how are you doing it today? So we try to visualize also the current situation when we are building the flight routes. So we basically visualize how you're doing it today. And then we are analyzing it like, okay, is this great? Because when it's great, then let's keep it like this. But if you're like, no, that's actually not so smart, we want to change it, then we are changing it. And the thing is, there is, I think, not a single true answer to your question. It highly depends on the industry you're in. It highly depends on the scale we're talking about. There are so many influences where you can only have a tailored decision based on this. So if I'm a startup company, I will take totally different decisions, like when I'm compared to the Swiss railways or something like this. Yeah.
All right. So the answer is it depends, and you can do it both ways, as I understand.
Exactly. And that's also why we are talking about the thinking model. So try to figure out how you're doing it today, analyze your situation, and try to improve it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mara, just 1 second, because there is another question from Anjani that is related to flight routes, and then I will give you the opportunity to make your
perfect. Yes.
Anjani, you want to make the question directly to Klaus?
Yes, definitely. Thanks for that. I'm trying to visualize myself trying to figure this out, but again, I won't be the only one doing it, right? So I'm trying to figure out who I should be doing this as a Scrum Master, or does this come top down? It's not meant to be top down, but how does it flow into the organization?
You mean who's building designing the flight routes?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when this is part of the change approach, well, I'm kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to approaching change. I'm always a huge fan of what John Kotter would say, a guiding coalition, which is basically a hierarchy bridging and cross-functional team. So I would like to have as much knowledge as possible in the room when designing these flight routes. So yes, Scrum Masters have to be part of it, but yes, even senior executive have to be part of this. And then we can guarantee that we really come close to reality. Because the thing is, when it looks so nice on slides and then we have this heartbeat and everything is just like romantic, in real life, we don't understand our company that well. It sounds somehow strange, but whenever we build a work system topology, and especially the flight routes, we have to come up with a lot of how's it called, assumptions, because we don't know it. We don't have the right information in the room. And that's the reason why I always try to start as broad as I can to be at least close to reality. Does this make sense?
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Klaus.
Cool.
Thank you, Klaus. Maura?
So it might be connected with what Jenny was asking about as well, because I was asking about how does the discovery process start up, how it is triggered, and whether there is a chance for several product owners or several business area owners to trigger joint objectives, joint outcomes, as opposed to trying to connect different ideas, or as opposed to choosing different ideas. So a little bit more collaborative approach. Is there any kind of a trigger that would foster, stimulate, promote more cross teamwork?
Yes. So again, the answer is dependent on your situation, but I will give you maybe two extreme examples. One example could be a company like Lufthansa, like the airline. So this company consists of 500 companies, not people that are working there, but the Lufthansa group. There are 500 companies in this group. And then you run into a situation like this. We have our goal is, or one of our outcomes that we want to achieve, we want to reduce CO2 emissions, right? And this is the group outcome, what the group wants to achieve. And now all these companies, they have different ideas how to achieve this goal. So for instance, for Lufthansa Passenger, it's completely different than for Lufthansa Cargo or Operations or Lufthansa Technics, right? So the companies, they come up with their own strategies how to achieve this big goal, right? And even they have their own strategies as well, because maybe they cannot participate to CO2 emissions at all because we are working at the gate, and our so we don't have a lot of influence there. So in a situation like this, you probably don't have you probably have an approach of coming up with these outcomes which is more top-down-ish. Of course, you would consult your other companies, but most of the time you don't have a meeting with 500 companies and ask, what would be good outcomes for the next year, right? So it's not that broad. It's more top-down-ish. If you're a smaller company, I'm always a huge fan of, like bring all the people together and do it. I mean, there needs to be something like a strategy, right? So, and now let's get the best heads together in the company. And again, as I said, I'm a one-trick pony. Even here, cross-functional and hierarchy bridging is always a good thing to do. And then let's do it. So it really depends on who you are.
On the structure and the culture, as I understand mostly.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, amazing. Now we have a question from Taz. I think you are from US, Taz, correct?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, please make your question.
So basically what I was asking is basically what are the, in your opinion, what are the common misconceptions about the 3 flight levels model, and how can organizations avoid those pitfalls?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the most common are 2. One I've already talked about. This is that you basically map the org chart to the flight levels, because it's so tempting, it's so easy, right? We can just do it. That's number 1, pitfall number 1. Pitfall number 2 is it's a kind of unwritten principle in flight levels land, but we need to somehow make it explicit somewhere. Never ever builds a flight level system for people, build it with the people. So it's usually not a smart idea to attend, I don't know, a flight level 2 design workshop and build the flight level 2 system in this workshop and then go to the people and say, I now know how we work like this, right? So the idea is we always build on co-creation. So don't build stuff for people, build it with people. And this building for people, that's probably the second biggest misconception, where we really see when where the change doesn't stick. I mean, of course, we have a flight level 2 system then, but people are like playing flight levels, right? And that's not what you want to do. It has to be their thing. It needs to be my baby. And I need to be fully identified with what's going on here. So this would be like the 2 misconceptions, the most important one, I guess.
Thank you. Well, I think we cover all the questions. In the meantime, that maybe another one will come. I have a question. Actually, when you describe the flight levels, you have 3 levels, okay? In my organization, actually, we have more than 3 levels to create the golden thread. So how can we apply that?
Thank you. This is misconception number 3. Yes, there are, the idea is there are only 3 levels. You never ever have flight level 4 or flight level 5 or flight level 6, but you can have hierarchies between the flight levels. So for instance, here, this will be a flight level 2 system. That's a product. That's another flight level 2 system. That's another product. And then you need to coordinate work between these products. So you build another flight level 2 system. It's again a flight level 2 system. And you can have the same on flight level 3, of course. You remember the Lufthansa example? We have a group board and then a flight level 3. And then we have a flight level 3 for Lufthansa passenger, for instance. Yeah. So you can have hierarchies between it. So the point is, it's not so much about the number. It's more about what we are doing. So when it's about coordination, we're talking about flight level 2. When we're talking about strategy, it's flight level 3, right? But it's not so much about the number. And what we do in real life, and I think you've seen it here, we try to get rid of the numbers. When we build the work systems topologies, we give the systems names. So that's the company wall. You could also say that's a combination between flight level 3 and flight level 2 operational portfolio, blah, blah, blah. No, we don't care. That's the company board, right? That's the 5P product board. Yeah. So when you're building the work system topology, get rid of the numbers. The numbers are good to explaining the concept, because this flying high, flying low, seeing different things, so people can connect to this somehow. But yeah, especially when it comes to designing the work systems topology, the numbers, they get in our way somehow. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. So, for example, if you have a very large, a very structured organization, then maybe you have a strategy at a very high level, and then you have a strategy at the business unit level. We are all at flight levels 3. And then when the strategy will become more product vision or something like that, then we will move to level 2 and then with the work. Okay,
yeah.
Fine.
If we take a look at this, this has actually 4 flight levels. It has not 4 levels, but if you flatten it out, there are 4 levels. So this is level 1, this greenish one. The blue ones are level 2, and they are connected to this operational portfolio, which is another flight level 2. Yeah, so flight level 2 and 3 combi. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not about the numbers, it's more about what you're doing.
Perfect. Okay, we have another couple of questions from Anjani about how to find material workshop. What else?
If you go to flight levels IO, I guess you get some overview of workshops and so on.
Okay, amazing. And then we have Sver. I hope that I pronounce it correctly. Sver, can you make your question to Klaus?
Sorry for the name. It's it's Norwegian. My apologies. So, what would be the difference between teams of tips, teams of setup versus a collaboration or Flow X setup?
What is a Flow X setup? Please help me.
I just stole it from your slide. So. The collaboration of Flow X, Flow Y. So there you can see that you have a flight level 2 coordination level between a couple of teams. But in my daily work, I attend a bunch of teams meetings, but not necessarily.
Okay. Now I got you. Yeah, but I think this is something like a team of team, but it's not only a meeting. Sometimes we have this team of team meeting. So we have like some scrum or whatever going on flight level 1. And then we have a team of teams meeting where we only have this meeting. But what we are doing here is we are building a work system. So we see the work items of these teams where we have dependencies on the system. We try to establish flow. These 5 activities, we try to create focus and all these kind of things we also measure on the flight level 2. So it's more than only a meeting. You try to make the situation visible, what's going on between the teams, and representatives from the team join a meeting in front of the system, in front of this board, and they coordinate their work. So it's more than just a meeting. You have even retrospectives here. You have planning meetings. You have all these kind of things, and they are always going on in front of the board.
So just to qualify, if I am in the teams of teams meeting, and let's say seven teams or something like that, and it's really, really, really boring because there's no drama there, then it's let's say it's just kind of a status meeting. If I am in a flow collaboration type of meeting, we're discussing actual impediments.
Yes.
Where is the problem? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Cool. I see what the teams are working on, and I see especially these topics where we have to collaborate. I see these topics where we know, okay, this team has to work before that team or has to deliver something. So I make all these dependencies and all these actually visible, and I try to establish flow on this flight level 2. So it's a flow board actually, where you see how work is flowing across the teams. That's what we want to establish. Yeah.
So do you have a time for another stupid question?
There are no stupid questions, but
I'm a master of stupid questions. So because you say flow, and it could be a guest journey or something similar, right? So then a question, when you do systems on level 2 change between increments, say a quarter, so you adjust and set up different flow systems from let's say increment to increment or quarter for quarter?
It depends on your work systems topology. So one of the challenges, the biggest challenges in flight levels is to figure out what are your flight level 2 systems. We have a method and model how we can identify flight level 2 systems. So good candidates are, for instance, like platforms, are customer-facing products, are like service functions, or pop-up systems. So we also have pop-up systems. This is a flight level 2 system. Like in this context, it would be the Max Air flight level 2 system. This is only there. So the Max Air is a high innovative drone, what they want to come up. So they basically build a kind of tribe and put a lot of people together, teams together, to develop this kind of thing. And it's more like a proof of concept. Are we able to do these kind of things? Are we able to deliver this? That's what we call a pop-up system. So it's only there for, I don't know, half a year, and then it completely disappears. So to answer your question, everything is possible. What makes sense, right? So if the work fundamentally changes, there are new teams joining, or your focus shifts, or something like this, yes, you would rebuild the system. But if you are like, I don't know, if you are an SAP service function and you're doing the same thing for 5 years, why should I change it, right? Exactly. It depends on the context again.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Well, I think there are no questions, so this could be the last one. If you want to make a final comment, I think from my perspective, it was a great session. So thank you very much. A lot of clarification on my sometimes wrong ideas on what flight level are. So thank you very much. Really happy.
Thanks for having me.
To host you. Yeah, you have the closure, the wrap up if you want.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only say thank you. Yeah, I will send you the slides, and yeah, contact me on LinkedIn if you have more questions, or join our Flight Levels community. There are like-minded people, and get in contact with us. Would like to see you again. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And goodbye.
Thank you so much.